to the Bennington Board of Education. We do appreciate you guys being a component of our public school district. We do have the Open Meetings Act posted on the south wall, so everybody knows that. We acknowledge that some of you are here tonight to share your comments and concerns with the board, and welcome and respect your opinions and thoughts. We ask that you please respect the district policy with regard to time limitations during the public forum. If you do wish to speak to the board, please complete one of the orange forms in the back and give it to Jody, our secretary, and we will make sure you get a chance to speak. When your name is called, please proceed to the table in front of the board and identify yourself, your address, please. We ask that you keep your comments for 5 minutes and speak only one time. Please refrain from speaking about a personnel or student matter involving an individual. Please remember that this is a public meeting to conduct business of the Board of Education. As stated on the agenda, offensive language, personal attacks, and hostile conduct will not be tolerated. Okay, at this moment, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a couple of people that would like to speak tonight. First up is Rich Carlson. Good evening, Rich. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Rich Carlson, and the first thing I want to address is about 3, 4, 5 months ago, we paid quite a high bill for repair on our concrete in the parking lots. No objection on my end. We need to think for the future. Let's go back to Highway 31. And I know in 58, Walsass told me that was gravel road. I know they did it in about 63, so that has been about 10 years ago. They did a test program. Maybe the people who already retired don't even know they did it. But if you go to Bennington Road and go north up to Highway 36, that's asphalt. It may look like concrete, but it ain't. It's asphalt. So they did the whole road, and they did a projection. And on the south, they ground things. They did the sides, they did the skirts, but they went ahead. And I know asphalt's just as expensive as concrete, but that don't mean concrete's always the answer when you go to repairs. Because asphalt can be a little bit darker, it can melt a little bit better, it can totally seal, and maybe you'll get 10, 20 years, maybe you'll get 40, 50 years instead of just having as much money as we're spending. So go back and do a study on what the state did on Highway 31 and see what they did. If you even just drive Elkhorn up to Bennington Road where the John Deere is, you'll see a lot of repairs, a lot of everything else. You go a little bit further north up to the circle, you'll find out there hasn't been hardly any repairs. So I think for the future, we got to get the depth, do the engineering and check where we're at, save money if we can. Look into it.
Thank you.
The next thing I want to state, and first of all, I think the greatest asset in this world is our next generation. Number two, you see my truck out there, it's got a big I on the side of it. It says I. I ain't afraid to tell anybody how I feel about this bond issue one way or another, but I ain't gonna tell one single soul how to vote. But I would please ask, and all you people on TV land or wherever this thing goes, or computer, people died for this country. In Vietnam alone, it was 58,479 men and women. And you look at World War II, they died, you had to have the right to vote. So for God's sakes, vote. Since I came home from the service, I've never missed a State of the Union address. I don't care how you vote, it's your opinion. The main thing I want is you to have an educated vote. Do all the facts, do all the numbers. I received an information at my front door, and I was glad to receive it. No matter if it believes what I believe or believes the opposite. I have the responsibility of a voter to get all the facts. And then at the end of the day, I draw a line at the bottom, and then I decide. And next of all, I don't ask my wife how she votes. That's her business. With that being said, I looked at this deal, and I looked at the charts on evaluation. One thing I want you to realize, if they're going to go up this high, only 50% of that school. And 50% of some of that stuff, we've already passed the bond issues. I came here 51 years ago in 73. We had one building, now we got 8, I think. Count them up, I'm not for sure, but I think we're going for 9, okay? This new one we're gonna go for, the cost for me at my house is about $200 a year, I think, or it could be a little bit more, okay? But I'm paying 74%. Some of you people are only paying 53%. If you want to do an SID and you want to pay all more taxes, that's your responsibility. I elected to be in a neighborhood where we don't have no SID. We don't have any homeowners. I got gravel roads and whatever. That was my choice, but I'm paying $4,000 every year right now. So if it adds another 200. So we got to remember, if you look at this whole chart and you think, oh my God, this is where all the taxes are going, figure out what we've already approved, figured out it was all the bonds, and hopefully we get the message now, you folks, we got to start paying the principal down. But I love that sign in the back of the truck because it states just how I feel, but it stimulates conversation so I know my gut feeling how the public feels. And boy, I want to tell you, there's a ton of people hate their taxes right now. And if they're voting by a hate method, our children are going to suffer. And I think that's sad. We don't even have any kids either which way. That was how things, life fell into place. I voted for every bond issue except that 22 also. So either which way, but I think the kids are important. And I'll give you a little history about me. I'm a believer that K through 3rd, you learn how to read. From 4th on to the end of your life, you read to learn. I never learned how to read. I can't recite the alphabet unless you had them up there. I knew how to scribble at school, so you didn't call me stupid because I couldn't spell. But I ain't dumb. Don't ever think I'm dumb because I've done pretty good in life. But these kids need the best education they can. I don't know how the future is going to be, but I think if it does get turned down, in the long run, we start tearing up stuff we already built, it's going to cost us a lot more money than if we had just passed it in the first place. And then we have different options. We can do different options. Well, what are we going to do 7, 8 years from now? Take the gymnasium and make it into a cafeteria? You people were voted in, a lot of different, voted in for certain reasons. You have the expertise of being an accountant. Get all the figures and put them out so everybody in the world knows. That's the reason you were probably voted in, because you had, when you kind of asked to be voted in, some of your expertise. So let's make it work. Remember, the people are the boss. They do the vote. You work for us. And also, I say this very respectfully, they're hired help, the administrators. You people have just as much responsibility as they do, but I think myself personally, I'm proud of saying I'm going to vote for this thing.
Thank you, Rich.
Thanks.
Thank you, Rich. Carol Dussel-Cerny. Hi, Carol.
I just had, just one kind of, when I was looking through the agenda quick, they were talking about the school, like the school calendar. And I've always been curious. It's like, I know the state has a number of hours that they have. I'm just curious. I'm not saying we do it right, wrong, or other. It's like, we have required hours. How does that get into like how many days that we have? You know, and the length of ours, and I'm not saying we should do the bare minimum. I'm just curious how we get from hours to the number of days in our school, and I'm sure we have to subtract out passing periods and lunchtime and all that. And then the other things I'm curious, did you get a lot of response from people on things about the, things that they thought were good or bad about our calendar, or things they'd like to see? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Carol. Okay, if there is anybody else that wishes to speak? Looking and seeing none. Okay, let's move on to the consent agenda. Okay, let's see. I'm so sorry. Pardon? Okay, I don't think so. Okay, here we go. We have the approval of minutes, presentation of February bills. Let's see, who had bills? Karen and Christie? You guys had approval? All right.
And the only thing I did, and I'll share just for, I'm not sure everybody can hear me. Sorry, guys.
That's all right.
There we go, now I'm ready. The only thing I asked about was the Just for Kids, just because I knew we used Arbor Day counseling services, so I didn't understand the difference, and so I'll share that information so everybody knows. The Just for Kids, billing is for like our occupational therapy, services for kids, so it is different. So that was my major question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything? Okay, all right, thank you, Debbie. There's a motion on the table to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
Second. Steve, thanks, Jeremy. Jody?
Christie,
Yes.
Kara,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Steve,
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, reports and presentations to the board. Administrative reports. Yep, elementary, please.
First one up. Thanks.
Hey, Great.
Craig Tice, Stratford Elementary. Just have a few things on there. Obviously, you can see our updated enrollment numbers. The one that we added that we felt was pretty important with our projected kindergarten numbers for the following year. So you can see as of 2/5/24, you can see the projected kindergarten numbers. We opened it up a few weeks ago. Just kind of keeping a very close eye on that. I know it probably changes day to day, but we'll update you guys each month on that. Because we're looking into some, potentially having to hire some kindergarten teachers, but we're gonna take a look at that. So, any questions on those projected kindergarten numbers? Okay. Then I have on my report, this past week, several elementaries participated in a kindness week, and some are going to do it as well coming up there. So you can see some of the days that we did and participate in several different activities. At Stratford, we had some dress-up days, and then we also raised some money to Penny Wars, and it was a fun week. The students got to participate, and we also did some activities, following along with the kindness. So really good event that we were able to do there. The next big event we have coming up is parent-teacher conferences on Tuesday and Wednesday. We are always aiming for 100% attendance there. I think a lot of elementaries hit 98 to 99% last time. So we know there's trips and things that plan, but we always have teachers follow up with those parents that don't show up for parent-teacher conferences. So a wonderful event there. And then we did participate in our 100th day of school, which is a really fun event for the kids that participate. Even the staff, as you can see, participate in that. So we celebrated that January 26th due to snow days. We had to move that a little bit, but it's always a fun event for our kids that get into. Any questions about any of those events?
I don't, but Craig, I do have a question on, so how did you guys come up with the kindergarten projection?
So the kindergarten projections were done, Dr. Plus, this is actually not projections, this is actually official students that have signed up.
Today.
Yeah, today, my fault, I think I said projection. So earlier in the year, we did a projection based on kind of a cool formula I know that the district has done in the past.
Yeah, we tried to use some census numbers and others to come up with a kindergarten projection. It's like the hardest of all to come up with, obviously, because we don't know exactly what's going to come in. What we did do is an analysis of the last 5 years, thanks to Jody's work here, of how many students were registered for kindergarten in January, February, March, April, May, June, July, and August. And what we did find is there's kind of a trend that the number of students that register in January and February ends up being roughly 75% of our total. And so hopefully by next month, we'll at least know January and February, and we'll have a little bit better of an idea of what that could look like come August. Obviously, it's never perfect. All of a sudden, a bunch of kids register in August, we're not going to know until they show up, or a bunch of kids move in that have never heard of. But we do feel like at the end of February, we'll have a little bit more accurate-ish number.
Yeah, so I know like at Stratford, I know kind of my secretary, she has looked at that census and seen the families that have not registered, then we know we have a kindergarten coming up. And so she'll reach out to those families and encourage them, if you're interested in enrolling at Stratford next year to get enrolled. So I think most of our secretaries have done that already. The other thing we noticed this past year, I'm new to the district, of course, but we had a lot more. Our numbers were pretty good, but we had a few families that would move in, later in the May, June, and so register a little bit late. So this year, we are actually doing our, I would say not kindergarten roundup, but our orientation night We've actually moved that back to May this year, where previously that had been done in March, because we think we'll catch a few more of those families that have just moved into our district so that they can take part. Like, it's an important event for those parents that just have kids moving in the district for the first time. So, good question.
We did have 207 students register in January. So for kindergarten, which is the most that we've ever had. So we'll see what February brings, but we did have 207 in January that are already registered.
It just looks like Heritage is gonna be quite a bit off.
Yeah,
Yeah, they've got a bunch still coming.
yeah, I would think they would too.
I wouldn't read too much into it till the end of February, and then I think we'll know more.
We'll keep updating on this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, how are you guys?
How are you?
Good. I am Renee Rucker, the principal at Bennington Middle School. As you can tell by our report, there is a lot happening at middle level. We had 4 students participate in the honors choir. We also, as always, found multiple ways to celebrate our students, whether it's academics or civil leadership or just our Grow Lead Award. EMS participated in NAEP testing today. We had 50 students selected. They all seem to work hard, but what I really want to focus on, if you want to go back up, is our winter fun. And not just because it was the Frosty Fest or the I Hate Winter Bash, but what it really outlines, and I love the pictures, it was a lot of fun. What I really love is all the people and all the different organizations that work together. Our student senate, our student council, PTOs were involved, students, parents, and our BPS Foundation provided Gaga pits. If you have never played Gaga ball, you need to do it, for both schools. So it really just shows what a great community we have in Bennington and how everyone comes together to support our kids. Questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lamberty.
Good evening, everybody. Greg Lamberty, Bennington High School principal. We get to do NAEP testing on Wednesday, so 50 of our seniors randomly selected were notified last week, and they will represent our building Wednesday throughout the day in the library. So, in terms of things going on in our building, we had some students from the fall get recognized. So Quentin Archer, Maddie Scobie, and Olivia Mock were recognized by the Metro Sports Commission for their work in the classroom and on the competition fields and courts. So that was pretty cool to see those kids get recognized for their high GPAs, academic achievements, and then notoriety and contributions on the field. Additionally, Olivia Mock was recognized as the Gatorade Volleyball Player of the Year for the state of Nebraska. To my knowledge, that's the first time I've ever had a Bennington student athlete get recognized to be the top player in a sport in our state. So recently, we have state wrestling, which will go on this Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Now we have 12 wrestlers that have qualified for state. We have state cheer, state dance going on this week. The basketball teams will roll into the sub-district, district play the next couple weeks, and we start spring sports 2 weeks from today. Questions for me?
So get ready for the weather to change for the outdoor events.
Tim, I remember the days when you and I stood there and watched stocking caps, gloves, baseball games, and just hope bats didn't crack, and I don't think that part's changed.
No, the bats still crack, even on nice days.
Questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, student services. Mr. Bombeck.
Ian Bombeck, Director of Student Services. I don't know if I'm quite as excited as Greg was here, so, but we have a lot of great things going on in student services as well. I wanted to highlight the High Ability Learner Program. Right now, they're doing the Battle of the Books, so we're getting geared up for that. They have 7 elementary teams and 8 middle school teams. Actually, just added a middle school team here recently. That's an exciting event where kids are going to be, they're provided a list of books to read through. As they read through those books, eventually they're going to go and compete against other kids, series like essay writings, debates, and answering questions about books and things like that. From what I understand, there's great feedback from the kids. They love the event and the competition, and it's an exciting way to get kids kind of involved in reading and things like that. So looking forward to seeing how those kids compete and do in that event. The other thing I wanted to point out was our English language learner program. They are in the midst of doing their yearly ELPA testing. That's the English language proficiency assessment. They're required to get that every year in 4 areas that are listed in their reading, writing, listening, and speaking. In that, they have 75 students in the EL program that they'll have to do this assessment for, with the idea that the speaking assessment has to be provided individually. It can't be provided in groups, meaning they're going to have at least 280 sessions to complete over the course of the next month. It's kind of an intense time. It's a lot of scheduling and figuring out how to get things done, but we got a great team and they'll get that figured out. So, any questions for me?
Nope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good evening, Matt Blooming, Assistant Superintendent of Operations. We are in the middle of hiring season now in the Human Resources Department. Over the last month, I've had an opportunity to go to a few job fairs in Wayne State. Mrs. Rob, elementary principal at Bennington Elementary, had a chance to accompany me there. Had an opportunity to go out to Kearney a couple of weeks ago. I was at UNL today, University of Nebraska at Lincoln this afternoon. Did a Midland job fair on the 19th of January that was scheduled, but we had a really cold day that day with the snow and needed to be on that half of my job that day. So I called and rescheduled those interviews with those students that needed to be here. So when you look at our report, we have 11.5 certified positions that are open in the district. That's actually, since I submitted this on Friday, that's now up to 13.5. It does seem like a lot of staff that we're needing to fill for resignations, but when you look at 335 staff members that we employ, it's less than 4%. So not a terrible number at this point in time. Working starting this week on interviews, I have quite a few scheduled the next 3 or 4 days over the next 2 or 3 weeks. We're going to spend some time making sure that we get interviews done and get some quality employees into those positions. Paraprofessionals, we are down to 2. A month ago, I think we were at 9 that we had to fill, and so we've been able to find some positions there. So I appreciate Mrs. Sindelar and her work, working to recruit and hire paraprofessionals. So that has been an improvement over the last month. One of the things the Human Resources Department is doing this year is about every 8 to 10 or 12 days, we send a report out to the district, letting them know what positions are available in what buildings, giving them the opportunity to speak with their building principals or with the principals of the positions they might be interested in transferring to. And then we have a process that we created a year ago in order to go through that transfer for approval. And so I had good feedback on that is appreciated. And so we try to send that out as consistent as we can. Usually when I get 3 or 4 resignations, for whatever reason, I update it and I send it out, and I'll send one out again tomorrow with what we've had happen over the weekend. But that gives our internal staff an opportunity to apply for those transfer positions while we're looking for external candidates also. And our building principals, whether it's elementary to elementary or middle school to middle school, or sometimes it's a change in level, they have an opportunity to visit internally as well. So mostly a report on human resources tonight for me. Questions I can answer.
Well, you guys are pretty busy. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, Dr. Bloomington's transitioning, Dr. Hogan's transitioning up, that's something that we are constantly looking at now, just as this district has grown to 330 plus teachers, what that transfer process and our system associated with it, we're analyzing what bigger districts are doing and how we can be even more efficient just as we continue to grow.
Dr. Hogan.
Good evening, Dee Hoagie, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction and Assessment. Tonight, my report a great deal talks about the process we're going through with the high school English language arts adoption and evaluation process. And so it starts at reviewing standards and looking at ACT standards as well. We look at the data that we've gathered on our high school students over the years and to see how they're doing in English and reading. We follow that up with reading research on what best instructional practices are for kids. Then we go into how does this fit into the mission of our district, and specifically in our high school and our language arts instruction. Then we look at text level. So how difficult of material do we ask of freshmen moving to sophomores, to juniors, to seniors as we go through that? And then we develop a tool that we'll use to evaluate whatever materials we bring in. And so the teachers have worked with us, with a couple of consultants from ESU, to build this evaluation tool that we're using right now. We have brought in for teachers to review 8 different, actually, you'll see the list of texts that we brought in that they are currently reviewing. And so there are 6 that are available for core courses. So every student who takes English 9, 10, 11, 12, we try to adopt a program that will cover all 4 grades. The programs that were selected to have teachers evaluate have been reviewed nationally and rated very highly as meeting standards and also working well with students and meeting teachers' needs. We'll also look at AP material as well as communications and journalism are also materials that we have to replace. So we are currently evaluating all of these. We hope in March into April, we'll have vendor presentations for the top selected publishers. And then from there, we'll have an opportunity for the community to view those materials that have been rated top by the work that the teachers have done in the building. So I wanted to share that process with you so that you're aware of where we're at, what we have done, and the steps we're taking with that. The rest of my report gives you some highlights of assessment that's been going on. Last month, I gave you highlights of the number of students that we are supporting through our elementaries. Our middle schools also give intervention time, and we built that into the day. And so you'll see areas of the middle schoolers that may have IRIPs, which are individualized reading instruction plans. And middle schoolers don't qualify for that, but if they were in elementary and still have not hit our state goals of where we want them to be as good readers, we follow them through and make sure that they are personally taken care of in the middle school and continue to be worked with. So any numbers that are below 10, we always redact so that for student privacy, but you'll see the numbers of kids that we are serving in reading and math at each of our middle schools and throughout the fall, and also students that we're working with right now in the spring. So it's not just every student, but anybody who needs help. We really work to make sure that they are getting what they need. And then we have a number of professional development items coming up in end of January, early February. So what questions do you have for me tonight?
I do have a question. When we go back to the curriculum evaluation, what's the text evaluation tool? What's that look like?
It's a rubric that that teachers have built. It covers a lot of different areas, from how closely does it align with the standards, how well does it meet students' reading levels that they should be at each of the grade levels? Does it cover enough of classical literature as well as both informational text as well as fiction? So it's rated in a number of different areas. I'd be happy to share that with the board.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So that you can
This
see
is just
that.
review of the new material we're looking to adopt, not review of what we've had existing compared
Correct.
to new, right?
Correct. The materials that are 8 years old have not, the publisher has not made a new edition, and so we will be retiring that.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay, thank you.
very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Claus.
Okay, thank you. I want to begin just by saying thank you to you guys. The last week of January was School Board Recognition Week in the state of Nebraska. Obviously, you guys are in these positions that, there's always a lot of controversy and, just pressure that's put on you for the glorious pay of $0. And so I just want to thank you guys for all that you do for the students of Bennington and the community of Bennington as well. And, we're going to get a chance to recognize you in February. So thank you for all that you do. As far as a bond update, we have had 2 informational meetings, January 31st and February 6th. We have one more on the 21st of February at Heritage Elementary. We feel like those have gone pretty well. We had 54 people at the first one. We had 75 people at the second one, and 55 and 74. And so those have been good, been able to answer questions as they've arose. We've tried to get that information out to people as best as we possibly can. So when we start to hear questions, either in the community or within these presentations, we started an FAQ page that we put on the website, answering those as well. And we're putting things on social media and just trying to get the information out so when people go to vote, they feel like they can do so confidently. Let's see, state apportionment. State apportionment is a fairly large revenue portion for us. It's based on the number of students, the number of kids that live within the district between 0 and 18. So it's all kind of based on the census. The state has an allotment of funds and they give you basically so much per student. And so this year's amount was $156.34, which is 1 cent less than last year. But we are set to receive $790,316 this year. We budgeted at the beginning of the year expecting $750,000. And so we are $40,000 of additional revenue there for this current school year. That puts us in an estimated census count of 5,055 0 through 18-year-olds within our district. Next one is just one update on the Director of Secondary Education. And so as a reminder, when Dr. Hody decided to retire, we thought we were probably better situated as a district to scale out of the director role. And so maybe additional directors with more narrow scopes. We have experts within those specific areas. And so her role, or her position is to switch to the Director of Secondary Education, while Dr. Tyndall's role, which is currently the Assistant Director of CIA, will become the Director of Elementary Education. And so we had a good competitive pool of candidates. We had 27 different people who were part of the interview process. So we had a nice, robust process, and ultimately hired Mr. Jimmy Feeney, who I think is in attendance today. It ultimately came down to his energy, his work ethic, his communication skills, his enthusiasm, and just his leadership experiences. Mr. Feeney is currently the elementary principal at Bryan and Miller Public Schools. Previously was a secondary principal, as a middle school principal at Boone Central and also their curriculum director, and then a high school principal at Elgin. We're super excited to have him join the team and take us to the next level of the secondary education side. Then the last thing I want to talk about is the teacher shortage report. About a month ago, each year MDE puts out just the teacher shortage, the number of unfilled positions, teaching positions within the state of Nebraska. This year it showed there were 908 unfilled positions, which is more than the 779 that were the previous year. What's really interesting about this is 34 schools did not fill out the survey. 34 less schools filled out the survey this year compared to last year, but the number of positions went up 140 plus positions. And so we continue to see that teacher shortage throughout the state of Nebraska. Bennington Public Schools was no different. We had 7 positions that I think were approved by the board late April, May-ish timeframe, and so those were unable to be filled for the current school year. Luckily, Dr. Bloomkamp and team have filled 6 of those 7 already for next year, so that's the good part of it. So just continues to be a struggle out there to find additional teachers. Questions on my report?
Welcome, Mr. Feeney.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to committee reports. Building and Finance. We did meet.
I got a question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Are we covering the report connection survey summary? Is somebody going to do that? Or?
I'm sorry, where?
That was Dr. Lamley's report.
The survey? I guess I missed it.
That part of yours wasn't Dr. Lamley?
Yeah, I assume so. I mean, is that the one we did in December? Yep.
Do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Sorry, Greg, I didn't mean to make you get back up there. I didn't know who it was. Just on a separate thing, right?
So Bennington High School, for the second year in December, provided an optional survey to all of our high school students. Out of 1,000 kids, roughly about 50%, a little bit more, you can see 579 responses. We just ask them a variety of questions, give them a chance to give us some input. The most important thing we're after as educators is, are they connected in some way, shape, or form to our building, either through a program, an athletic program, the choir, the chess club, or do they feel that they have an adult in the building, hopefully a teacher, counselor, administrator, that they feel they can go to if things get tough for them. So as you can see there, 92% of the students who completed the survey indicated that they do have an adult in the building. I will say, digging into that 8% of no's, when we went into the table, every single kid that marked no did list a staff member in the building. So I don't know if it was a misunderstanding on the question, or if they just said, no, but I feel like teacher such and such is a good match for me. Other questions, we've had some controversy, maybe not controversy, but pep rallies where they are in the day. So that kind of way we got the feedback from the students, and half of them said that they like them where they're at the end of the day. Now, with that said, the spring pep rally is probably going to go sometime in the middle of the day, because every day, starting when season starts in a month, we have teams that are leaving the building at 2 o'clock. So we got to find a place to recognize those teams and those programs. I think further down, as you scroll down, I think there was a question about homeroom, where our kids are at with homeroom, what they think of advisory period in terms of whether it's helpful, not helpful. There's a question on there about prospective courses, as well as future clubs or programming that we should maybe add outside of the school day. So we always take a look at that, share it with our staff, share it with our leadership team, and then kind of try to figure out the best way to move some of these things forward. And in some cases, like I said, with the piece about connected adults in the building, we are intentional about checking in on those kids that have marked no, even if they've listed a staff member.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Yep, thanks. Okay, on to the committee reports. Building and finance, we did meet. I'm sorry.
I don't have anything in the committee reports to bring up for you.
I can do it, go from
Go
there.
for it. Yep, go for it.
During that time period, we had some building maintenance issues that we worked our way through. In addition, we talked about the funding for the curriculum proposals that came through, so that was approved. And then had a couple large scale issues on the exterior of what potentially could be high school number 2, things that DLR needed now, and so they could continue their process. And so the building finance committee worked through a couple of those issues, so DLR could keep doing that work.
Buses, we talked about buses.
Yeah, buses, yeah.
So just for future, because of the cold weather, kind of beat our buses down a little bit, and by all means, we've got to make sure we can keep rolling. But no purchases or nothing, just discussion on it for future. Let's go from there.
A lot of things you'll hear tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Claus. Curriculum.
We just, and we'll be talking more about these tonight as well, but we met tonight, and we met previously looking through the low cost items, like what are the things that we could go ahead and move forward and improve, knowing that we want to wait a little longer to kind of finalize our numbers and hear from you all in terms of the budget. So that's what we're working on.
Yeah, and I think we do have, I believe we have some action items, right, for approval tonight. We're looking to add 2 cross-country coaches to the high school for growth. Add a PST leader at the high school. Add a JV cheerleading team. Add a percussion instructor to the extra duty. Increase the pay so we're adjusting the level of pay for the elementary gym coordinator. So what we're looking at is district-wide of how we can make sure everybody's equalized as far as their pay scales and extra duties. So we're looking to adjust that one as well. We're looking at the high school athletic aides one as well, to match them with their other middle school counterparts. So, and then we're also looking to add internal policy for a therapy dog, and looking to roll that out hopefully here towards the fourth. I'd consider fourth quarter, that's the end of the school year.
Yeah, we're talking about maybe piloting that in the fourth quarter. That way we feel confident going into the 24-25 school year.
Wonderful. How about the policy committee? Nothing. Okay, nothing to report there. All right.
And
All right, coordinator, let's do the transportation facilities, Mr. Weedings. I thought I saw you roll in. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Jeremy Eames, Coordinator of Facilities and Transportation. So transportation update was supposed to be scheduled for last month, but unfortunately due to weather, we didn't get that covered. So we'll do 2 reports tonight. First thing we're talking about is transportation, and our transportation comes growth. So growth over the years, you notice 2 years where we had a decline. So in 2020, we know what happened, so COVID, less bus ridership. But 2022 is interesting because that was the year we opened Stratford, we opened Medicine South Middle School, and because of the locations of those schools, we did see a decrease in ridership because more kids did not qualify for the bus. So this year, currently we transport 885 students transported daily. 815 of those are on K through 12 big buses. So there's 17 buses. So right now we have an average of 47 students per bus. A couple of years ago, that number was in the high 60s. So much more comfortable for our students. So we have 36 special education students that we transport daily on 4 special education buses, and 34 preschool students that we transport on 2 preschool buses. So all in all, we have 23 total daily routes. Currently, we have no routes that are mixing elementary and secondary. As a result of that, I feel like we've seen a drastic decrease in bus conduct referrals, and our students are spending less time on the buses. So year to date, we've done 345 activity trips in the first semester. Sorry, not year to date. That's a little bit down from the year prior. We were at 355. We traveled about 22,800 miles. Again, that's down a little bit from last year, where we were at 24,000 miles. So, bus drivers. So we have 23 total routes, as stated. 18 of those drivers are employed by Bennington Public Schools. 5 are contracted through First. We do everything we can to competitively recruit as much as we can. It's a very competitive CDO labor market. We did hire 3 new bus drivers for this school year. 2 of those were brand new and needed the full CDO training, and I'm happy to report both of them passed on their first try. So bus fleet, so we continue to research and make decisions on what we need to purchase for the future. This school year, we just purchased a new 2023 Suburban, and we also added a 2023 Ford Transit 11-passenger van. So bids are currently being gathered, so we know how much we can budget for additional K through 12 buses. There's still some supply chain issues with manufacturing new buses, so we typically purchase off lease because we can get them at a much better price. But they don't know what's going to be returned or come back off lease yet because the new buses they don't have ship dates on yet. Transportation fees. So currently, Bennington charges $175 per semester per student, so $350 per semester or $700 per family. That's our max. So a neighboring district right now is charging $89.30 per child per month. Their second child, $84.30, so there's a $5 discount. Third child, $79.30, and the fourth child's free. So an example, a family of 3 students in this neighboring district would pay $2,529 per year compared to $700 here in Benton. Bus maintenance. So exploring a full-time mechanic, we do have a personnel proposal out there. Relying on mobile mechanics has become a little bit more difficult. We used to see a couple hour response times, 24 hours at worst. Now we're looking at 1 or 2 weeks. So first semester total for our mobile mechanic in the various shops that we went to was $96,975. That does include parts and labor. That cold week we had, as Mr. Dreesen alluded to, we had some adventures that week. So these are just some of the things that happened that week for us. We did have 6 buses that gelled up on us. We did have them plugged in. We did have fuel treatment in there to prevent the gelling, but unfortunately, -30 is -30. So we did get pretty creative with blankets and little turbo heaters, and we got everything defrosted eventually. Some of them took a lot longer than others. So it was an adventure that week. So looking ahead, so an alternative then public schools could consider would be staggering start and dismissal times by 45 to 60 minutes. In reality, probably 30 to 45 minutes, we could get this accomplished. So this would make each route a split route. So a driver would go out, pick up their secondary students, so middle school and high school, drop them off, go back, pick up their elementary students, and drop them off. This could potentially give our drivers possibly a full-time status, which would greatly help with recruiting. We could cut our routes almost in half. We could go from 12 full-time routes to, 23 full-time routes to maybe 12 or 13. So it could lead to some better retention as well. We could eliminate our first student contract. And we'd also not have to purchase any new buses for at least 4 or 5 years. Any questions over transportation?
One other question, have you guys talked about that? Where are you guys at on the staggering?
So we really early on in the process right now. I've done some models before, a couple years back, where it was about 30 to 35 minutes is what I need. So we haven't discussed it yet under new leadership yet.
Would that be so would that just be the elementary and middle, or that's high school as well?
It'd be high school and middle school, I envision would be starting around the same time, and then elementary would be starting 30 minutes later than that.
Do any of the bus drivers, do we have a couple teachers driving?
We do.
We do. Does that affect anything for that? If we would consider that?
Possibly it could.
Okay. But maybe if they're, well, yeah, I don't know, that's just something to think about, I guess.
We could always assign them to the same building.
Yeah.
Rather than.
But it would help with our recruitment though, right? And it would
Absolutely.
also make these people full-time versus a part-time gig, so I think that would probably help.
Absolutely.
Definitely something to think about.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Thanks, Jeremy.
Did want to just make sure that we thank Mr. Edens even more so for what was that week of freezing cold that we all experienced. It was, I know he kind of alluded to it, but it was a week of constant work on those buses, constantly figuring out how to make this work. And so for us to just have I think we had a late start that week is all, that was really a tribute to Jeremy and his crew and all that they did to make sure it was working. Buses running all night, people monitoring them all the time. They gelled up and they had a backup plan to make sure that kids were there. I think we had one delay for like 10 minutes. I mean, it was very minimal. And so I can't say thank you enough to Jeremy and his crew for that entire mess of a week.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
That doesn't even count the buildings and the
I was
HVAC
gonna say,
and
that
all that
wasn't
stuff.
the
Yeah.
All right, so facility update. So staffing. So we did start a new position, a groundskeeper position. This position was created to help alleviate some of the building maintenance travel time. So each building maintenance guy is kind of assigned to a sports field as well. Sports fields are taking a lot of time and away from the building a lot of the time, and that's creating some issues in the building. And then also our sports fields aren't getting the attention that they deserve. So this new position, they started in December. We've been doing a great job. Unfortunately, we've been using them a lot as a substitute lately. As bullet point 2 alludes to, we had a challenging first semester with staffing. We had 2 team members out on FMLA leave for multiple months. So having that extra person has really helped me and the staff get by. So a little bit of staffing expectations moving forward. I'm going to do some customer service training with our staff. We're going to focus on speaking with empathy and also focus on follow-up. You know, if a teacher comes to us and reports a problem, you know, handling that with care and making sure that they understand that their problem is important to us and that we are going to follow up on it. Summer projects and plans. So parking lots are gonna be a big project again for us this summer. Over at Heritage Elementary specifically, there are some areas of concern. I am trying out a new product right now, to do some pothole repairs. So I did apply, this product, it's called PermaPatch, it's a pressure activated, kind of like asphalt, but not fully asphalt, so it's not like a hot patch. It could be considered a cold patch, but it can be applied in rain, it can be applied in snow. I wouldn't do it in snow, but I did several little test spots over at the high school in the back loading dock area before it got cold and before we got that weather, and they all held up really well. So I ordered about 12 more bags of it. I'm gonna do some more and see how that holds up. But we have been focusing as a team on getting these potholes addressed before they become bigger and getting any cracks addressed and sealed up so those don't become bigger. The Bennington Elementary Playground is going to be a spot for us that we're going to focus on this summer. And whenever we get a heavy rain, that seems to fill up with water like a bowl, and then eventually it ends up coming in the building. So there's been a couple nights where we've been here and been extracting water out of classrooms. All hands on deck, Dr. Plaza and Dr. Camp were there with me as well. So we'd like to get that addressed. So we worked with DLR, kind of discovered some of the issues. We did discover some drain tile that got collapsed when they installed either the ADA structure, the playground, or the retaining wall around it. So we're not sure who did it, but we just know that it's collapsed. So me and my staff, we are going to take care of that on our own. I did get a bid. It was like $8,000 or $9,000, but I feel like we can take care of that in-house. So, we do have a request from Pine Creek Administration to do a fence around the playground area, so I'm still working on bids to get that done. For our summer staffing needs, we're looking at 4 grounds crew members, so we're going to reduce the number by 1 from last year. And then we're looking for a paint crew, and we do kind of always try to hire either food service or paraprofessionals to help us and it helps them bridge that gap over the summer. So facility life expectancy, again, some areas that are of concern. The high school roof sections 1 and 2, so those are 2005 and 2009, modified bituminous roof. We are working with our insurance company as there's some hail damage up there so that we can hopefully get that replaced in the next 5 to 10 years. The Pine Creek roof is also an area of concern. It is a 2009 roof. I think it's still got quite a bit of life expectancy, but it would be prudent to pay attention to it now and possibly plan for replacement down the road. HVAC equipment here at Bennington Elementary. So there are rooftop heat pumps in this building. There are electric heat pumps. They're on the roof because there's not enough space in the ceilings in these classrooms. So I got a bid from the manufacturer that makes them. They're very rare. They're $27,000 a piece. So I went out and asked some questions and found another vendor that gave me a bid and switched those over to gas-fired heat pumps at $19,000, and that is the install price. The $27,000 bid was just for the equipment to replace those like 1-to-1, exactly what we had up there. So we believe that the gas heat pump option will be more efficient and provide better comfort for our staff there in those rooms. Snow, my favorite weather. So, Record Gold Street, thankfully we had no major issues inside the building. So we did set up in our train controls that any building or any space that gets below 40 degrees, I get an email, and also the maintenance guy gets an email. So we can get there and hopefully address the problem before we have any major issues. Some minor issues that we corrected: boilers failing to start up, or new maintenance, heat pumps when we started. Again, those rooftop heat pumps here just not working very well anymore. Parts are hard to come by, but we did have one of those rooms got down to about 45 degrees. Thankfully, we didn't have school. So we opened up the ceiling and applied some space heaters and got some air moving, so warm air up there prevented anything from freezing over. The exterior snow removal challenges over at Heritage Elementary. Our beloved tractor that is 23 years old had a small fire. Unfortunately, that fire was right underneath the main wiring harness. Being a 23-year-old John Deere tractor, they searched all over the country and could not find that wiring harness. So we decided to go ahead and scrap that unit. We did get $3,000 from insurance to go towards the purchase of a new unit. We found a used John Deere 1575 that all the attachments that we have already would fit on. And the price for that was $22,000. A new unit runs about $53,000, and that's without any attachments, so we save some money there. Our plow truck, the plow came disconnected and then the plow got stuck at one point. Really surprised the driver. I was the driver, so backing up, and I was worried I was going to go into 168th Street, and then I finally got unstuck, and I looked in front of me, and the plow wasn't there anymore. So this resulted in a broken weld, which we welded and fixed, and some damage to the wiring, which we're currently doing repairs on. We're going to have all of that in-house. The cat skid steer has been our most valuable tool for snow removal. However, it's kind of limited. It's got probably the smallest bucket you can get for a skid steer. Bennington Public Schools could benefit from purchasing a snow pusher, which is kind of like a box with an open end, or an angle broom to help kind of clear some areas and give some support to those larger schools. Sometimes we get in a rush when the snow comes early in the morning and catches us, not off guard, but catches us at that right time when students are starting to arrive. Having an additional piece of equipment that we can move around definitely helps. So we'll be working on and publishing an RFP for snow removal services for the end of this season, so that will start next school year. So our sports fields. So I want to evaluate the sports fields at the beginning of the spring. We're going to come up with a plan for repairs. Having that new maintenance guy that focuses on grounds is definitely going to help out a lot. The biggest burden, again, still is going to be striping the fields. So we do have the turf tank robot, which has been extremely helpful. You know, anybody that's strung a football field by hand and measured the yard lines, it can take 8 to 10 hours, and that's if you know what you're doing. Me, it would take about 24 hours, but we can now just set up the robot out there, and we can have that done in about 3 to 4 hours, and the maintenance guy can be doing other tasks while that field is straight. We are sending our new groundskeeper to a workshop, a free workshop at the end of this month, where it's going to learn all about caring for infields and as well as some turf maintenance. So over the summer, I'll be working on my annual rebid of consumables, so toilet paper, soap, paper towels. Continue to work with administration on summer projects, work with teachers to make sure that anything that needs addressed in their classrooms will get addressed over the summer. I do want to thank, the maintenance operations and warehouse staff for all their hard work that they put in over that cold snap, but also the rest of the year as well. So we couldn't have done it without them. They're hardworking individuals. Any questions?
Just a comment and thanks. We're definitely a growing district, and you have your support, so we appreciate everything you do. I do, for sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, on our spotlight one, instructional coaches.
I'm Emily Fanning, I'm elementary curriculum coordinator. And I'm Mary Beth Bates, and I'm a math specialist at Pine Creek. And we are very excited to be with you today to showcase and celebrate the hard work of our elementary instructional coaching team.
So we're going to just give you a brief overlook of what we are, and we're going to do that by defining what instructional coaching is for you, talk about what the BPS model is, what our purpose is with instructional coaching, and our next steps.
And to do that, we're going to begin by just making sure we're all having a common understanding of what we mean when we say instructional coaching. Instructional coaching is a professional learning strategy that seeks to raise student learning outcomes while at the same time strengthening teaching methods inside of the classroom. It entails a very collaborative and cooperative relationship between a coach and an educator. where the coach provides direction, encouragement, and specific feedback to educators to help them advance and refine their skills in selected goal areas. They do this by giving specific feedback to teachers to help them make data-informed decisions in the classroom and to help them build some of those behind-the-scenes structures that are needed for them to be able to obtain goals and then also sustain goals that are at work in the classroom. Really, it's a sustained effort for continuous improvement for all members of the classroom, with the ultimate goal being that we're positively impacting teaching practices that leads to improved student engagement and achievement.
So here at Bennington, we've synthesized all this information that Emily has just shared with you. We built a vision around these core pillars. As you can see listed here on the screen, those pillars include instruction, relationships, and reflection.
And we want for you to get to meet the special people doing phenomenal work with our elementary teaching staff, and that is our elementary intervention team. We're going to spend a few minutes unpacking their unique role in the district so you can understand a little bit what they do to support teachers.
So instead of a more commonly seen design where content specialists and coaches are two separate roles, here at Bennington, we have an instructional coaching model that is an 80-20 split. For 80% of our time, we wear the hat of reading and math content specialists. This time that we have is spent working with students in small groups in the area of math or reading at the elementary buildings. As building leaders in this role, we are also building level district assessment coordinators. We assist in organizing testing schedules. We carry out the testing sessions. We complete makeup testing. And that happens at the elementary level for NWEA math and NSCAS testing 3 times each year. For the other 20% of the time, we work as instructional coaches, working in coaching partnerships, currently with all new to district elementary teachers. In those partnerships, we work on building relationships with our coachees while enhancing student achievement. Our partnerships seek to expand Tier 1 classroom success and support both district and teacher selected personal growth areas. Additionally, we also plan and carry out building and district level professional development that enhance initiatives that support the professional development of all teachers in the district. Some of these initiatives might include data analysis and curriculum training, as well as facilitation of PLCs, which are professional learning communities that are collaborative meetings at grade level.
As we continue to think about recruitment and retention efforts in the district, we see 3 main opportunities. The first is being able to expand Tier 1 classroom instructional support beyond just our new to district teachers. Currently, only our elementary teachers have support within our program, so another opportunity would be to grow to include middle school and high school coaches as well. And finally, we benefit from deepening the richness of our impact with full-time coaches. Thank you for allowing us to brag about ourselves.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, I love the model.
Very good. Thank you very much. Okay, spotlight 2, MTSS behavior. Mary Beth, you don't get to stay up here, I have your name.
Yeah, we doesn't have
That's okay, we'll let it go. Hello.
Hi, I am Amy Christensen, the district behavior facilitator.
And I'm Alex Varga, behavior interventionist at Anchor Point, Stratford, and Bennington Elementary.
And then Brittany Kramer is our other interventionist, and she is ill, so she's not able to be here tonight, but she serves Pine Creek and Heritage. Okay, the purpose of the program, we aligned to the purpose or the proposal of these positions that was approved last spring. So the purpose of this program is aligned with an MTSS approach. So when we look at behavior, it's a proactive model in coaching and collaborating with teachers, school site counselors, administrators, and using a team approach to help kids in those different levels of tiers, which we'll go over through a approach and using data to drive decisions. Here we just have the three people that are involved, myself, Alex, and then Brittany at the bottom. Who's not able to be here. This is the MTSS framework, and this is a nationally known framework that we use in schools when we look at academics, and then behavior was incorporated within this model probably I would say 7 years ago. The purpose of this is it meets the needs of all students. So it's not just targeting kids who are having difficulty with behavior or kids who have difficulty with mental health. It targets all kids. So no different than when we're working with kids where we're looking at academics, we're looking at meeting 80% of our kids meeting benchmark. So on the academic side, that's reading and writing and math curriculum. And then on behavior, it's how are we working with kids in that area of social emotional learning and using positive behavior supports so they feel supported and healthy when they're at school. That middle section is going to be some of our students. So 5 to 10% of our students are going to qualify or require a supplemental or an intervention support. And then that top level is a very few amount of students, from 1 to 8%, 8% would be fairly high, that would need intensive intervention for behavior, which might look like a functional behavioral assessment or a specific behavior plan. So the number of students that we serve in elementary school, again, we're serving all students, is 2,206 students. Within that framework, we're able to provide supports for all these kids through coaching, targeted instruction, and then intervention for all kids. So when I say intervention for all kids, that might look like having interventionists provide coaching with classroom teachers. If we have a group of kids that are really struggling with learning or being impulsive, or we need classroom management type supports. That middle level tier might be more specific to if we have a child who's struggling with controlling their emotions, dysregulation, and those types of things. We can pinpoint that and then use research-based interventions to support those kids. And again, that would be similar with that top tier as well. So then when I break that down for you, this first tier, again, that's going to be all of our kids, all of our staff, all of our classroom teachers, and really use that team-wide approach where all the staff that are in the building, that's our job, is to make this a safe and caring environment for kids. And so that is everybody. All of our buildings have safe, respectful, responsible kind. So they have that common language. So when we're using that, we're reinforcing what is the common expectation within the buildings. We're hearing that. Because the other part of this is making sure that all 5 of our elementary buildings have a universal support system that's similar from building to building. So you don't get why does Stratford have this and Heritage not. How do we do this? Schools have done a really nice job with identifying what are the specific routines that they want to have in place, using school-wide rewards, appropriate consequences for behaviors, etc. For this second tier, I did look at the numbers for Bennington, and we are right now serving 5% of those 2,206 children in a middle level tiered approach. And so that would be what the interventionists are doing in the elementaries. Working with kids on whether that's teaching social skills or using an intervention such as check in, check out, where we're working really hard on making sure that kids have meaningful relationships and in schools and they feel comfortable being there and know the expected behavior. So I was pretty excited when I looked to see that we're able to target the correct amount of kids and we're in line with that national recommendation for the kids that we should be working with. And that tier 3 is going to be the more intensive behavior, persistent behaviors, behaviors you hear where those are the things we're seeing a lot of in your classroom where we're looking at higher level needs. And we don't have as many of those students to count in that total. So it's all about prevention. And so if you're able to really, really work on building a solid foundation through that first tier, then it makes supporting that tier 2 better, and then you have fewer kids at that tier 2. We did do a needs assessment survey to kind of determine what are the needs of the program, how the staff sees it, and then where do we need to move from that as far as professional development or supporting teachers. So the teacher rating of support in August, we were at 66.9% felt that they were supported. We sent that exact same survey out again in February and are seeing 77.9% are feeling supported. So we're seeing an increase in teachers feeling supported and an increase in student behavior on the positive side. So next steps, things that we're thinking of as we continue to build this framework is a universal data collection piece where it's collected similarly between all the elementary buildings. So when you pull that data out, you're looking at it from a district lens and not how each separate building is doing it. Continuing professional development in the buildings, looking at baseline data from this year, because this is the first year for the program, we didn't have anything to go off of. So we will use that to determine along with working with those building administrators on what they would like as far as professional development in that area of behavior. And tier 2 intervention supports. We'll continue coaching at tier 1 and collaborating with everyone. Schools have a really unique asset because they have a number of people with different specialties. So we can pull those people together and use everyone in the best way possible for coaching. We'll also look at continuing to build different intervention supports for those small groups. Any questions for us?
Nope. Thank you very much.
Again, I want to quick thank the board. That was a approval that you guys from last year, and so our behavior intervention team, that was a late approval. I mean, I think it was May-ish when that took place. And so Mr. Bombach and Mrs. Sindelar and our MTS, our behavior team, they got to work over the summer of what should this look like. We know we need to be more structured. We know we're having, like all school, more behaviors, and so they really went to work over the summer in the first quarter, and we're starting to really see the results now. So thank you to the board for supporting that.
Fantastic. Lobbyist report?
Yes, Julia.
She's actually got us in the order.
Here she is. It's like a grand entrance.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's like in the legislature.
Thank
Good
you
evening.
for having me tonight. It looks like you have a full house and a busy agenda, so I hope not to take up too much time. We are on we just finished day 26 of the legislative session. Just really quickly, I'm sure you all know this, we're in the second part of the biennium, so it's a 60-day short session. So any budget items that we do are more to balance the budget, not recreate it. Right now, we're in the part of the session where we're doing morning floor debate and afternoon committee hearings. And what that means for the education committee, which is where most of our bills are of interest, and the revenue committee is, they were assigned over 100 bills, and so they're doing like 10 to 12 bills every time they meet. And it is making it very long, very long afternoons, long evenings. And because of the recess days and the things that they have scheduled, they really only have 9 days to hear all of those bills in public hearing. Remember that every bill in Nebraska gets a public hearing. So like I said, they're doing a lot in a short period of time, haven't exec much to actually get things on the floor. So most of the items that are on your list are still in committee. Big topic this year is the governor's tax reform package. He'd like to reduce property taxes by 40%. He's got a number of proposals introduced by a number of different senators to accomplish that goal, to raise the money in order to do that, which I've sent some updates about. If you have specific questions, I can answer that. But the real important part of this week is on Thursday is when senator and committee priority bills are due. So that will be what we, I say this every year, that will create the agenda for the rest of the session. We will get to the point, although the mood in the legislature is very good right now, it's not as contentious as it was last year. They are moving a lot of bills, carryover bills, some non-controversial bills. That time is of the essence. It is short as we get into these more substantive issues like, balancing the budget and doing the tax reform debate. It will really focus on what are those priority bills. So I think from here or Wednesday or Thursday on out, it will just be priority bills that we start to discuss. I have a bills of interest list. We can go through some of those. The 3 that I put that we're focusing on that are part of the tax package are all still in committee. What I will say about the tax package is, a lot of groups and a lot of senators are getting into the weeds on each bill, and that includes, getting rid of all the tax exemptions that are proposed and raising the sales tax and putting caps on political subdivisions, and all need to be thoroughly vetted. But I heard one senator this morning say, we're building the plane as we're flying it. I mean, literally, there is no package as of yet. Everything is still on the table. Everything is being actively discussed, lobbied. Parts of it are saying we can't do this, we gotta take this out, we gotta add this. So there is no package to speak of as I sit here tonight. It's still really actively being discussed. Am I missing anything, Dr. Claus?
No, I was just gonna say, Julia's job's gonna become very important over the next couple months because of kind of how things have started to pan out within the legislature. So if you remember last year, one bill passed with 22 education bills attached to it. Odds are you might see things like that again, whether it's the tax package or it's education-related bills. Right now, it's just a hodgepodge. You got 22 hearings within a week. Which one of those are going to start coming together and being compromised into a bill? And so that'll be really important for her because she'll be able to stay on top of that, and we can, voice our opinions on whatever those bills are that we feel like are going to make the final cut to be a part of this.
That's a great point. And the speaker, again, it's a very, collegial mood. The speaker has said he would like to see no more than 10 bills on each package. The government committee's already gone over that, so that's not gonna mean much as we get, and especially as we start running out of days, I think people will. So, thank you. I'm always available for questions. I talk to Dr. Haas a lot, and I'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody? Thanks very much. Thank you. Appreciate you coming out here. Okay, on to unfinished business. First on the list is discuss, consider, and take action to revise policy 408.02 certified employee contract release.
Yeah, so we discussed this at the last meeting, just kind of a quick reminder, policy 40802, which is our certificated employee contract release. There's a line in there that says a request for release from the contract submitted before May 1 of the current school year. Requesting release for the upcoming school year shall be accepted by the board without any conditions. Earlier we talked about the teacher shortage that we're seeing. The ability to rehire those positions is becoming significantly harder than it has been in previous years. I kind of worked through this with our Benson Education Association, the Superintendent Teacher Advisory Committee. Everybody understands the situation that we're in. I'm going to say everybody's super thrilled about this change, but they at least get it. And understand the why behind it. I did send this out to staff as well, so they were aware and they could have, if they had questions, those could get answered. So the recommendation is to remove that line from 40802. So I'd probably talk about that a little bit. What we would do is we'd have staff members, teaching staff members, certified staff members sign their contract on March 15th. If they, let's say it was March 16th and they decided that they wanted to go to another school or whatever, they would not be released from their contract unless we had a suitable replacement. And so at that time, we would advertise their position. Let's say we have a pool of 10, we feel great about what we're gonna be able to hire them. We might release them from their contracts and hire from the pool. Or else we put it out, we don't have a single applicant, we're gonna probably hold them to their contract for the upcoming year. Things that we've committed to as a district, we will actively seek suitable replacements. We'll try to help our teachers as best they can if they want to move on. We will advertise, we will go out and try to find a suitable replacement. In addition, if we have a staff member that is looking for, or has an advancement opportunity, and so something with an advanced degree that they now have an opportunity to take a job in, whether that's a counselor or a principal, an interventionist, a psychologist, something of that nature. We don't want to hold them back. That's obviously great for their career, and so we would accept those resignations. And then in addition, if any staff members had life-changing circumstances. My husband took a job in Arizona and we're moving to Arizona. We're not going to take their certificate from them for those life-changing circumstances either. Otherwise, staff members would be under the suitable replacement after this contract.
There's a motion on the table. Or does the policy committee have anything to talk about or anything?
No.
Good with it?
I move to revise policy 408.02, certificated employee contract release as presented.
Steve, is there a second?
I second.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Jeremy,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Kara? Yes. Steve?
Yes.
Okay, next to discuss, consider, and take action on the 2025-26 school calendar.
Yeah, I'll take this, but I might tag team you with Dr. Hoagie. The previous meeting, we gave 3 potential outlines for what the 25-26 calendar could potentially look like. You guys gave a little bit of input, and then we also talked about gathering additional information from staff via some surveys. That all took place. A reminder, they had been practice of the district to approve a calendar 2 years in advance. It allows for planning from our activities director, or planning from families as well. And so this is 25-26, not next school year, 2 years from now. There was a question earlier, I believe during public comment as well, about the number of hours. So the state statutes say that elementary students have to be in school for 1,032 hours. Secondary students have to be in school for 1,080 hours. How that equates to days, it kind of depends. You can chop it up however you want. My nieces that go to Lincoln Public Schools, I think they get to school at about 9:10 and are done by 3:10. That's probably the function of what their transportation system looks like and what they have to do. The only thing that we're held accountable to the state is these hours. And so we are roughly 10 days over as far as hours are concerned. We also have our curriculum set up to cover X amount of curriculum throughout that time period. And I think that's the expectation of Bennington as well. But this is significantly over the number of minimum hours that are mandated by the state. Back to the calendar, we did send that out to staff. We had 109 of our staff respond with their desire to have 2 full weeks for winter break. And so you'll see that reflected within this calendar. And they also wanted 5 consecutive days for spring break. And you'll see that reflected in this calendar as well. A few highlights, this does have 176 student days. We went to a new snow day system this year, which I felt like was going to be really excited. Everyone's going to love that. And then because what it does, it allows our students to have 2 free snow days, while our staff has some modified in-service days. And then come to the 3rd day, that's when we start adding on the calendar. In previous years, if we had a snow day, then we added on the calendar. I thought that would be really exciting until we had 3 snow days within 5 days. And the only thing I heard about was adding onto the calendar. So this has 176 student days. We'd like to continue with that system as of now. We'll try to get some feedback at the end of the year and look for the upcoming year. It has 186 staff days to meet their contract. It reports on August 8th for staff, where NSA practices will begin on August 11th. Students on the 13th. 3 days for Thanksgiving, the 2 weeks for winter break, 5 days for spring break, graduation on May 17th, and then sprinkle in service and 13 early dismissals throughout the course of the year. Another change on this one is I'm going to bring the 24-25 calendar back to you guys next month. As things pop up, we like to get those modified as fast as we can. This calendar reflects something that will be in next month's, and that is the parent-teacher conferences. We've continually seen the same thing, amazing attendance rates for parent-teacher conferences at the elementary, 98, 99%. Pretty decent at the middle level in the 60 to 70%. The high school level is, nobody shows up. I think we're in less than 20% of the parents that will attend. In conjunction with that, we've also sent out communication surveys. I believe the last one at the high school level said the communication satisfactory level was over 90%. And so I think our parents are consuming their information for their kids through Nemesis, through email contacts and other avenues of parent-teacher conferences. But we also wanted to try and make sure that we gave a better opportunity for that. And so Dr. Lamberty and his team kind of worked their way through some potential options and have requested that they have a standalone parent-teacher conference night. That way, if I've got a third grader and a ninth grader, I'm probably going to go to the third grader before the ninth grader. And so I might not be going back and forth, even though we have staggered times. And so reflected in this one is a Monday, October 13th and February 9th. Monday would be high school, and then Tuesday would be middle school and elementary only. Wednesday would be all three levels. And so they kind of have a standalone night. We'll see if that helps with our attendance rates at the high school. And so we'll also try to bring that to the 24-25 calendar next month, but we wanted to reflect on this one in case it works. Questions on the calendar? I did want to thank Dr. Hoagie and her crew, and there's several people that worked on this for quite a few months. And so it's calendar is always interesting. It's hard to make everybody exactly happy on the calendar, but try to get tons of input and put together one that we feel like meets the needs of the district.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate you slipping in the answer from the public comment. That's a good deal. Thank you. Anybody? Okay, so there's a possible motion.
I move to approve the 2025-2026 school calendar as presented.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Steve?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Motion passes. On to new business. Discuss, consider, and take action on 24-25 school year option enrollment capacity numbers.
So each year in the school district, we have to establish our option enrollment capacity limits. And so essentially what this says is the board is saying, here's what we are able to educate, the number of students we're able to educate. If we have under that number, we would accept options within that grade level, that building, that program. If we're over that level, we would not be able to accept options within that grade level, that building, that program. And so for historical purposes, I believe this is correct. Everything I saw is that we have not actually been able to accept option students since 2004, 2005. And so it's been almost 20 years, which is probably not surprising with all the growth, obviously, that the district has seen since then. So we prepared a document that has the proposed capacity limits. And get a second one, please, Stacy. So kind of the methodology behind this one is essentially, it's not just about whether we have a room available, it's whether we would have a teacher available within that room as well. And so at the elementary level, we took the number of teachers in K through 2, and the limit was 20, 3 through 5, the limit was 22. At the middle school level was 24, and the high school, or excuse me, 23, and the high school was 24. We multiplied that by the number of teachers we have within each of those buildings to come up with what our potential capacity limit is. Then we turn around and we projected enrollment for 24-25. This is a historical growth projection, and so it is a little bit higher maybe than our conservative growth, because if let's say we accepted an option student or accepted option students, that brought 100 new students into the districts. And then when our kindergarten enrollment all of a sudden showed up at 400 as opposed to the 350 that we're projecting, now we have 100 additional students plus the extra 50. And so we do use historical growth for our enrollment capacity within this. Then you can see up on the screen what our building capacities are, what our projected enrollments, and that would shut us off to options for 24-25 as well. A couple quick items on that. As of the October 1 reporting deadline, and so remember they pull all the information after October 1, we had 157 students that were optioned out of the district. I think 75% of those have never attended our district to begin with. They lived here and went to lived in different districts. They moved here and stayed in their district that they were in. And then we had 66 students that were optioning in. Each of those were under the grandfather clause, which means they lived here and were educated here for 2 straight years, and moved to a different district and opted to stay within our school system. We don't have, capacity limits don't matter in that situation. You're automatically accepted. Word's out, people know, we haven't been open to options in almost 20 years. And so when they call in, I shouldn't speak on behalf of Jody, but I'm going to. I hear her all the time say, go ahead, fill out the options. We want to warn you, we haven't really been open in 20 years, but each year the board reconsiders it and looks at it. And so please fill out your application and whatever happens is going to happen. And so some people will and some won't. As of now, we only have 12 applications for the 24-25 school year, mostly for that reason. If we did open, we would have hundreds.
And the grandfather clause has nothing to do with our district, that's a state statute.
That is state statute, that is every district in the state of Nebraska.
Yeah, so back when we were talking about the elementary projections, right, Heritage is at 23 projected currently, we've got 77 currently enrolled, so if we don't make that number up, that's less than half, right? So you're saying 70, I think we said 75% are generally enrolled by the state, right?
End of February.
The end of February.
End of February, yep.
So I guess that would be my concern, right? So if we do have these teachers sitting here, we're gonna be down to 10 students, which would be great, right? But
that'd be a new situation for us.
it would be a new situation, but it looks like that when we're looking at the numbers that we're looking at now, projected wise. So if that is the case, then would it be beneficial for us to take those option enrollment? Because if we take the option enrollment, it brings more revenue in too, right?
No, it does not for us. It would if we were a non-equalized district. And so because our needs are here and our resources are here, we get the equalization rate in the middle. We're one of the highest equalized districts in the state of Nebraska. And so the option student, it would put money into the formula and it would reduce our equalization rate. District I was at previously, we were the opposite. We had resources that were this much, but needs here. And so if you were a positive net option in that district, it would actually raise the revenue for what you have. And you have to be net option positive. And so if you have 100 coming in and 100 going out, the state would give you 0. If you have 101 coming in and 100 going out, with net option positive 1, and so it would be about $10,000 for that student. For us, that $10,000 would equal or would reduce our equalization rate by $10,000. The previous school was math. Yep. So
at that point, we're just adding an additional student.
Yep.
But in some cases, maybe, well, it depends on when the enrollment comes back. Because what are we gonna do if we don't have enough? If it maintains that? Like in Heritage or Pine Creek, like Pine Creek's been around for quite a while, right? It looks like Pine Creek, they got 69 enrolled already, which is substantial considering they got 61 in there, right? But a Heritage, I don't know how many people move into Heritage.
Can you rephrase your question?
Well, Heritage is at 23, right?
Yeah, which I wouldn't worry about those enrollment numbers right now. They're just, I mean, when Jody and I were going through that the other day, I said, all right, what do we got for enrollment? And she hands it to me, and then 30 seconds later, she takes away, yeah, I got 2 more. And then she hands it to me. And so they're just constantly coming in. And so I would not put much into our kindergarten enrollment until we're thinking at the end of February, we'll at least have like a semi-idea. Up until then, I don't think it needs that much.
Is that something that we do have to consider and take action because it's got to be done now?
The option enrollment side would have to be done now. And so right now we projected 350 kindergarten students within that class. If we go through 50, we're going to probably be coming back and looking at a potential personnel proposal to add kindergarten teachers. We've been about 325-ish for the last 5 years. And so we know that we can support that. If it's 350, we might have to add, might not. And so that's where we put it, but we don't actually know how many are going to show up until they show up. Part of that's number of houses that come in over the summer too.
Traditionally, over the last many years, we've held a kindergarten position available and not filled it. And so we've included it in the budget. And almost every year, we've needed to fill that position because of those enrollments or those registrations that took place late May, early June, late June. If for some reason those applications didn't come in, we maybe wouldn't fill that kindergarten position. It'd be in the budget, but we wouldn't spend it.
So I'm going to give you a scenario. Let's say that we have 300 registered students, and we opened up for 50 option students. Those 50 option students would be in here like that. We would be up to that capacity almost immediately. As soon as people found out there was a possibility of getting to Bennington Public Schools, even if you didn't live within the district. That would bring in 0 additional revenue to us. And then let's say 50 kids show up over the summer that, move into the district. Now we're at 400 students and no additional revenue came in. And we have to educate 400 students, because all the residents, we absolutely have to. So it's kind of this odd balance of, if we had a whole bunch of open positions and we got over 0 as far as our net option, it could be beneficial, but we're so deep in equalization, it's not gonna bring any extra revenue. No. The previous school district I was in, I loved option students. You get 10 option students, that's $100,000, that's a teaching salary, and you could add a teacher, and then you still have room for 10 more, So it was beneficial. Bennington's financial situation is just different.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions? Oh, all right, seeing none, there's a motion on the table.
I move to approve the resolution to set the grade level capacity enrollment for policy number 502-02, non-resident students in regulation number 502.02R1, non-resident students option enrollment as presented.
Thank you, Christie. Do we have a second?
Second.
Jeremy, thank you, Jeremy. Roll call.
Kara?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, discuss, consider, and take action on curriculum and personnel proposals.
I think we went over most all of these during the curriculum report earlier, but grand total of the 6 proposals, $15,425. This money was also released from the Building and Finance Committee. Just a lot of, again, we kind of analyzed kind of lower cost proposals to see what we could get done, just knowing next year's budget situation is going to be a little bit different. And so I felt like these 6 were attainable and would also bring a lot of value to the district.
You help the layman here, the acronym PST.
Yeah, that's a new one for me too, is the problem-solving team. And so this is a leadership position within the high school that helps analyze data to make decisions for kids within grade levels. And so they have 2, and so this would add a second one to help with that. So they probably split up by grades. When they put in the paid position, whatever, 3-4 years ago, there's probably 700 kids in the building. Now there's 1,000. Next year there's gonna be 1,100. And so divvying up that work a little bit.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
These are the ones Steve was talking about earlier. Yep. So, any other discussion? All right, there's a motion.
I move to accept the recommendations by the Curriculum Committee for 2024-2025 curriculum and personnel proposals number 36, number 45, number 41, number 44, number 22, number 37, as outlined in the January 8, 2024 Curriculum Committee report and pending 2024-2025 budget approval.
Jeremy, is there a second?
I second.
Christie? Any more discussion? Roll.
Tim?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Okay, executive session to discuss pending litigation. The board will need to enter a closed session to hold a strategy session regarding pending litigation. We don't expect nothing out of this, right?
Yeah, there'd be no anticipated action afterwards.
All right, I move that we enter a closed session for the purpose of holding a strategy session regarding pending litigation as an executive session is further necessary for the protection of the public interest.
Second.
Okay, Jeremy? Roll.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes. And 7:22.